Hey everybody, it's Bust with what's coming up in the channel in the next few months, or maybe even the next few years. And so, a touch of a history lesson to give a touch of background. We played Legends of Runeterra for about the past 4 years. We initially started out playing Expedition. Expedition got removed from the game, so we switched over to Path of Champions because that was going to be the big thing. Riot said PvP was going to be the big thing after that, so we switched to PvP. And then with the layoffs round that happened here a few months ago, they said it's no longer PvP, it's back to Path of Champions. We touched on that a little bit, but I'm just kind of done with the cycle and we need to kind of move on from LOR. And so the thing that we moved to from there was playing games for about 100 hours. I really like card games. I really like deck builders. I felt like the 100-hour mark was a good place to really get a feel if it was a game to worth recommending in terms of spending your money on, or if it's something that you could really devote that 1,000 hours to if you really wanted to. And it gave us a good, 4 to 6 weeks of content to really kind of churn out. And so we touched on Balatro, we touched on Backpack Battles, and then after our 100 hours of Backpack Battles, it really lined up perfectly with the big LOR re-release of stuff with the new Path of Champions content hitting, along with the final set in Dreamlit Paths. And so that's what we've been playing over the course of the past few months, but I'm kind of done with LOR now. We'll talk about that more in just a moment, and so we need to figure out what we're going to be moving on to. And so, with my kind of final thoughts on LOR, the big Swain patch just hit to where they have the hard mode adventure in Swain within the game, and I just don't think it's that interesting. It feels like basically every hard mode encounter is just kind of like figuring out the gimmick, which is kind of fine in the sense that if there was maybe like 20 hard mode adventures and you had to figure out the Swain one is good with this, and then the Lysandra one is good with this, and then the upcoming Nora one or whatever we see is good with this, like that's kind of fine and okay, but it needs quite a bit of time to get fleshed out. But with the kind of history of poor management that LOR has had between the flip flops between all the formats and the decision making that they've made, with what we've seen of the Path of Champions up to this point, it just feels like more of the same. It feels like the Constellation system was a bit rushed out. It doesn't really fit in with the ideas of having Aurelion Soul be the top challenge and things like that. And I'm really just kind of like bummed out with how that's all panning out. And now with the release of the Swain adventure, while I do think it's a great idea to kind of resurface some of those adventures you probably didn't play, I'm just not really excited about the execution that they're doing there. And so it's not to say that we'll never come back to LOR. It's not to say that, a year down the road, a year and a half down the road, once they've had the opportunity to kind of flesh out the new vision that is Path of Champions, maybe we'll give it another revisit. But as it stands, I don't really intend on making content for it anymore. I will, as kind of an aside to an aside, note that I do intend to make a little bit of it because I do foresee myself still playing LOR ladder at the gym. And so that might give me the space to where at the end of a ladder season, I might poke out a video in terms of what we've been playing to rank up, but no guarantees there. I really don't intend on touching the game for too long. And so, up next, the game I'm really looking forward to, what I really intend to devote a lot of resources to, is going to be the Bazaar. If you're not familiar with Reynad, he was a main figurehead of the Twitch Hearthstone community back in the heyday of its peak interestingness, its peak viewership. He went on from there to make his own gaming company. They have the Tempo Storm brand. I know they had a Heart of the Swarm team. They had a Magic team. I think they have a few other teams out there running around, maybe Super Smash Brothers. And this has been his game studio endeavor over the past, like 5 or 6 years. I'm not quite certain. But the game is supposed to be released here in at least, I believe, in October. Maybe it's September, or at least the beta release. Looking forward to that. I think I might have bought into the beta 2 times or so. And so hopefully we actually get to play for the beta. But it's my intent to move forward with the channel with the Bazaar. If you caught our gameplay on Backpack Battles, it's going to be very similar. It is a drafting item type of game to where you're drafting items into a backpack of sorts, and then you fight an auto battle against an immediate opponent. And so it's a very interesting game. You can scroll back to some of our Backpack Battles content if you're interested in maybe getting a peek at what that was like. And then the Bazaar is actually releasing some of their official content now as well, and so you can get a better visual of the game there. Now, we do have kind of a 3-month gap between now and when the Bazaar beta is supposed to hit, and so we'll circle around to that and what we intend to do within that gap. The other thing to kind of call out in the upcoming year is Slay the Spire 2. That's supposed to come out at some point in 2025, and I'm very interested in playing it as well. I think I logged over 1,000 hours into number one. I didn't hit that 2,000 hour mark, but played a ton of the original. Very interested in the sequel. And so we'll see how it plays out. If the Bazaar doesn't really grab my interest, if it doesn't take hold, if it doesn't get its hooks in, then we'll probably be looking to move over to Slay the Spire 2. And so that's kind of on the back burner. I don't feel like Slay the Spire type games generate the most compelling and interesting content, and so we'll have to kind of see how that comes and plays forth. I'm much more interested in the Bazaar and the level of excitement that brings, but again, if we're not into it, then Slay the Spire 2 is definitely up on the chopping block in terms of things that we'll be doing. And so, for now and up to the next 3 months when the Bazaar comes out, what are we going to do? What are we going to be looking for? And so, here is kind of the criteria that I put forth in the games that I really considered. I need something familiar. I don't have the most brain power right now. I don't have the mental capacity at the moment to take on a new game and try and present it. And so, I have to stick with something familiar, something that I've played in the past, at least a little bit, something that I know the rules and I've played a touch of a competitive edge, and I've hit all of these games in that sense: Magic, Slay the Spire, Teamfight Tactics, Marvel Snap, and Backpack Battles. And so we'll keep that in mind with all of them. Ideally, I would want something that either has a draft mode or is a deck builder. I really don't love just playing constructed all the time. It wasn't that bad with Legends of Runeterra. I kind of enjoyed it, but I would ideally be out there in that space of drafting something. And so Magic, of course, has the limited modes. All of the drafts and their originality comes from Magic. Teamfight Tactics and Backpack Battles are both drafting games, and then Slay the Spire is a deck builder. Marvel Snap is not something I actually believe in. I would actually never play Marvel Snap. The price is too predatory for my enjoyment, but it does check a lot of the boxes for things that I'm looking for. So we put it on the screen because I did think about it a little bit, but we'll never play it. And to the best of my knowledge, it doesn't have a draft mode. After that, I would prefer it to be mobile friendly. I do still ride the bike at the gym and need something to do during that time. I would prefer the game that I'm creating content for be mobile friendly so that I can get some practice reps in at the gym before we come out and make the content that I produce for you. I know most of these have mobile formats. Magic, Teamfight Tactics, Slay the Spire does. Backpack Battles does not really. It has some kind of shitty Steam thing that you have to do that's like a remote desktop from your phone to your PC. And I don't think it's that great, but you can technically do it that way. Last but not least, I would prefer something that has fast games. I have found myself in this spot to where I've gotten, 5-10 minutes into a game of Hearthstone Battlegrounds, and then I just have to quit to go feed a baby or attend to some crying or a shitty diaper or something. And ideally, it would be something that is fast. And so that was one of my real, highlights of Path of Champions. If you look at these things, something familiar, a deck builder on mobile that has fast games, or a game that you can just drop and immediately pick back up later, Path of Champions really checks all those boxes. And so it's been a bummer that it's not really fitting for me. It's not working in the way I want it to. But Slay the Spire and Backpack Battles both fit within those themes as to where the game either lasts 30 seconds or you can just turn it off and pause it, turn it back on later. As far as Teamfight Tactics go, I was looking to just play Hyper Roll. The Hyper Roll games tend to last 15 to 20 minutes as opposed to a regular game of Teamfight Tactics, which is closer to like 30 to 45. And so that is an option, but it is the longest game mode of all of the game mode choices here. I guess Best of 3 Magic might be a bit longer than that, but that is the kind of general idea there. And so, all of these were on the table. They're all on the chopping block. The game that I'm going to be playing over the course of the next few months is going to be Backpack Battles. It is unfortunate to me that it doesn't have a really good mobile friendly mode. That's why I do intend on at least, kind of sticking to LOR at the gym over the course of the next few months. But the Bazaar and Slay the Spire 2 should both be mobile games, and then we'll be back to it at that point. And so, I really like Backpack Battles, like what it has to offer. I think the auto battle things are just kind of more visually interesting to watch than a card game. It's much more draft centric than any of the other games in the mix. That's very important what's going on. It definitely feels like it's more of a drafting game than an auto battling game. And so I'm very interested in that sense. And with that last 100 hours we played, I'm still kind of familiar with it, and I had a lot of enjoyment there. And so, if that's interested you, I hope you stick around with the channel. I hope you enjoy the games that we're playing. If not, I hope there's still someone out there covering the LOR itch so they can scratch your back for you there. But otherwise, we'll still be keeping to that thing. The game that I'm playing is what we're going to be making content for. So it should be backpack battles over the course of the next few months. We'll see if we can't crack into Grandmaster there. And then whenever the Bazaar hits the beta, that's what we're looking to kind of make a hard switch to. And so that's it. Again, I hope you stick with us, and that's what we're going to be doing. And so that is going to do it for us today. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you had learned a thing or two along the way and you had a good time watching. This is Bustin. We thank you for being here.